The film opens in Los Angeles, 1992, where Mercer is seen receiving a call from Child Protection Services after he's taken conditional custody of his son, Antoine. While he goes to wake Antoine up for school, a man named Riggin meets his friend Copeland and asks him to pull a last heist with him so they can quit this lifestyle and settle down with peace. Back in Mercer's house, he serves Antoine breakfast, which he doesn't eat. Meanwhile, the news on the radio details a white cop named Rodney King, who mercilessly beat up a black innocent man with some of his officers and is now on trial, grabbing a lot of attention from the black community. Mercer tries to communicate with Antoine, but he demands an explanation for ditching him his entire childhood and not showing up for his mother's accident. Mercer tolerates his arrogance, but he loses his calm and raises his voice at him for using profanity under his breath after Mercer puts a curfew on him after school hours due to the escalating Rodney case. On the other hand, Riggin picks up his brother Dennis and shows up to his jerk of a father to give him a demonstration of how they're going to pull their heist. Meanwhile, Mercer goes to a grocery store, where he comes across some rookie thugs trying to harass the Asian cashier. Mercer politely tells them not to bother the woman, so they pull out their gun and put it over his head. Suddenly, their elder Deville immediately pulls them back and scolds them for not knowing who Mercer is or what significance he held in their community back in the day. Deville apologizes to Mercer personally and asks when he got out of jail, revealing the reason why he wasn't there for his family. Mercer states that he's been out 6 months ago and is now maintaining a low profile. Back on Riggin's side, he takes his father to a factory where his inside source has given him all the details and layouts of a safe, which contains 10 million worth of platinum. The safe is made out of solid material and is secured by an alarm, which immediately lowers a metal cage that encases the safe. Despite the thoroughly planned out heist, the father disagrees to do something this big and also passes comments on not being professional enough to dodge the factory's security or cameras. This behavior piles on top of other bad things that Riggin has been tolerating from his father, but keeps it quiet and takes his father back home. Behind them is Mercer in his car, who works at the platinum factory. While collecting his card and keys, he strikes up a conversation with the security head, Joseph, about the Rodney King case, turning on real heat if the verdict is against the black victim. As Mercer begins working, Dennis and Riggin are shown loving together. Like a good brother he is, Dennis gives Riggin company after his plan gets disapproved by their father. Later that day, the news of Rodney being declared not guilty by the jury breaks the news in the black community. A violent protest takes place in Los Angeles, which gradually grows big and volatile. Antoine comes straight home from school and takes notice of the riot near his house, looting a liquor store. Seeing the news on TV, Riggin is struck with the idea to pull his heist now that the cops will be busy with the riot. He calls his father, who also agrees to make their move. Meanwhile, Mercer and all the other factory workers are given the rest of the day off to go home and be safe. Riggin's source from inside the factory updates him on the situation, so he grabs Dennis and rushes to get his heist started. They pick up Copeland from his house, whose wife is currently pregnant, so he requests that she stay inside the house while he'll be out. Back in the factory, Mercer nicely asks Joseph if he can bring Antoine in the factory because his house is right in the middle of a black hood, which according to him isn't safe for his son right now. Joseph has a soft spot for him, so he agrees to let him and Antoine stay safe in the factory. On the other side, Riggin goes to pick up his father and gets pissed at him for hiring 2 thugs to protect him. Mercer drives through the angry riot to get his son, only to find the house empty. While the police cars head towards the riot, Dennis drives the van to the factory. Joseph gets bored of sitting in front of the surveillance monitors, so he takes a round of the building. Riggin tases and ties up the security guard outside and drive their van through the main door. They make their way through the loading docks, assuming no one is present. But when they come across Joseph by the vending machine, Riggin politely tries to get him out of their way, but his father's thugs shoot him on the spot, which startles the brothers. Riggin threatens to shoot the thug, and vice versa, but their father breaks their fight by reminding them of sharing the same interest, platinum. The thugs cut the phone lines and surveillance and drive a forklift to the safe room, where they put their equipment in position to break the safe. Mercer finally finds his son standing still near a grocery store being looted by black fellows, so he grabs him by the collar and takes him to his car. On the contrary, the thugs start drilling a hole in the safe. Joseph regains consciousness and drags himself to push the security button for the safe. This triggers the metal cage to lower itself, so Riggin immediately drives the forklift forward to stop the cage. During this, Copeland's leg gets under the front tire and gets crushed. Riggin panics and tries to push the forklift back to free his friend's leg, but his selfish father strictly refuses to do so because the cage will drop otherwise. Riggin cusses at his father for being a menace, so in return, he makes his thugs steal the forklift's keys to prevent Riggin from pushing it back. Simultaneously, an air patrol helicopter is alerted of the alarm at the factory, so they decide to pay a quick visit there. Meanwhile, Antoine tries to run away from the car to join the angry protest, but Mercer pulls him back inside, stating that violence isn't the option for something that's not new. He tries to talk some sense into Antoine for making him observe how they're ruining their own town, which is what the cops want in the first place. Back in the factory, the thugs shut the alarm and shoot Joseph once again. Mercer and Antoine drive through a rough spot where a group of black men is terrorizing an innocent white couple, so Mercer goes out of his car and beats the black men to save the white couple and tells them to speed away. The robbers use everything they have to blow up the safe, but immediately pause when the chopper flies above them. The officers in the helicopter find the place quiet, so they fly away. Mercer and Antoine are randomly pulled over cops who have put a curfew of their own. They misbehave with Mercer and Antoine for being black and pull them out of their car for a search without a warrant. After finding nothing in their car, they let him and his son go. But Antoine becomes traumatized to see the indifference. On the other side, the bad guys finally open the safe using explosives and become millionaires. Riggin goes to prepare the van, and Dennis goes to the bathroom to wash off Copland's blood off his hands. At that time, Mercer makes his entrance with Antoine, who finds the absence of the main door security guard odd. He still heads in and points Antoine in the bathroom's direction since he has to pee. Antoine's entry startles Dennis, so he points his gun at Antoine. Simultaneously, Mercer finds Joseph shot dead, so he takes Joseph's gun and moves forward where the thugs shoot at him. He escapes them and goes after Antoine, only to find him missing. He runs to the loading dock and kills the power to tackle the thugs. He hits one of the two thugs in his way and runs back to the loading dock where he catches Riggin parking the van. He knocks him out with one punch and takes him away. Dennis brings Antoine to his father, who interrogates Antoine in front of the crying Copeland, whose leg had to be chopped off. Mercer tries to interrogate Riggin, but when he gets nothing out of him, he figures that he's here to steal the platinum, so he sneaks into the safe room and witnesses Riggin's pig of a father threatening his son. When Copeland's screams become intolerable for him, he shoots him several times to death, which also traumatizes Dennis, along with Antoine. Antoine, however, convinces him that he was here looking for his missing father, who works here, so the old man feels generous and lets Antoine leave. Unluckily, his thugs show up at the exact time, reporting that someone has taken Riggin. The old man immediately calls Antoine back and abuses him for lying about his father. He decides to use him as bait to get Riggin back, so he keeps him along and sends the thugs to check up on the van, who find the van's rotor missing. Mercer also runs away from the room and tries to wave at a patrolling helicopter for help, but it flies away. One of the thugs ambushes him from behind and beats him up in order to get the van's rotor back that he stole to prevent the van from starting. Mercer cusses at him and fights back. At last, he shoots him, which causes him to break the safe room's glass roof and fall down in front of the old man. Mercer returns to Riggin and unties him. He feels sorry for him for having a heartless father, revealing that he just shot a black man from his own team in front of his son. Riggin figures it was Copeland, so he turns against his father. Meanwhile, the old man and one of his thugs put acid all over the vault and random items around the room before packing the platinum biscuits and leaving. Dennis sits down with Antoine and tries to ask if he knows Riggin's whereabouts, but Antoine swears he doesn't know anything. The old man finally makes a deal through Kong and tells Mercer to come to the loading dock for an exchange without a weapon. Riggin alerts him that it's a trap because Antoine is a witness and his father never spares any witnesses. Hence, Mercer uses Riggin, who shows cooperation. At the loading docks, Dennis is seen loading the platinum in the van. The old man takes the van's rotor and gets it fixed, but decides to shoot Antoine to avenge the thug Mercer just shot. Mercer immediately pushes Riggin in the van's direction and uses his gun to open fire, during which Dennis gets shot. In the end, Riggin helps Dennis get in the van, which Mercer and Antoine drive and flee with the platinum. Hungry for money, Riggin's father steals Mercer's car near the main gate, along with his thug, and goes after them. When Dennis dies in Riggin's hands, he becomes so heartbroken that he opens the van door and starts shooting his father, during which the thug shoots him in the chest. Before passing out, he manages to shoot the thug, but Antoine and Mercer become distracted because of the gunshots and end up crashing the van terribly. The old man comes near the van and spots all of his platinum lying worthless on the ground. He watches Riggin nearly dying, so he apologizes for never being good enough for him and shoots him in the head. When he hears Mercer dragging himself out of the van, he comes to shoot him, but Antoine shoots him from behind with his trembling hands and saves his father. The film ends with the father and son hugging each other and getting away in their car.